I think the world will be like in a second term with President Trump's second term. A lot of people
I know what it'll be like if we let her in.
Yeah. Oh, really?
And that ain't good.
Yeah.
Miserable track record.
I don't think Kamala will ever hold public office again.
Better not.
I don't think you can come back from. It wasn't that she was outfoxed.
Lost,
it wasn't that she lost. I think you can certainly lose an election and run a good election.
Mel Gibson and Tyrus just did the unthinkable. They didn't just speak up. They tore into Kamala Harris with a force that could break the internet in half. It's like Braveheart clashing with a wild late-night roast, and Kamala's right there in the middle of the storm. You thought you'd seen political drama before? Think again. This is chaos on a whole new level. Imagine Hollywood fury colliding with Fox News fire. Pure madness and entertainment rolled into one explosive moment. Mel and Tyrus didn't just speak their minds. They blew the entire Kamala narrative into glittering, scandalous dust.
Listen to what Mel Gibson just said about Kamala Harris.
She got the IQ of a fence post.
Let's fact check that. Can you point to something in your life that you think was a mistake that you've learned from?
I mean, I've made...
Greg, the teleprompter went up and they cheered too long.
Yeah.
And she panicked because all she couldn't remember the connection word. So she panicked. This ain't close, I'm telling you.
Before we dive any deeper, hit that like button and subscribe. Trust me, you don't want to miss this madness. Mel Gibson didn't stroll into politics like some curious bystander. He crashed into it like a man who just realized Hollywood scripts aren't even the craziest thing anymore. Because let's be honest, listening to Kamala sometimes feels like sitting through a motivational seminar where the speaker forgets their topic halfway through, but still manages to charge extra for inspiration.
Track record, no policies to speak of.
And the border, right?
And she's got the IQ of a fence post.
So when Mel Gibson finally decided he'd had enough of that cosmic confusion, he didn't whisper. He exploded. It was like watching the movie version of someone flipping a table and shouting "cut" in the middle of a live broadcast. And honestly, the man's got a solid point. Here's an actor who once spent decades yelling at imaginary armies in the misty fields of Scotland. And even he's looking around wondering, what on earth is Kamala doing? That's when you know something is seriously off.
VP Harris, she won't go to the border, probably because she'd rather take the magic school bus to the moon.
You guys are gonna see. You're gonna literally see the craters on the moon with your own eyes. Oh my goodness. With your own eyes, I'm telling you, it is gonna be unbelievable.
With your own eyes.
Mel's not out here pretending to play nice anymore. He's done sugarcoating it. The man survived Hollywood scandals, studio meltdowns, and decades of being told to tone it down. If Hollywood was the Wild West, then Washington is the messy, unnecessary sequel nobody asked for. And Mel? He's the cowboy ready to call it exactly what it is. A full-blown circus with no ringmaster, just chaos under bright political lights.
And they range from, if you've ever parented a child, you make lots of mistakes.
He starts off like he's directing a blockbuster scene. Picture this, he says, America, the biggest movie ever made. But who's running the show? Kamala Harris, who somehow turned the entire script into a riddle wrapped in confusion, tied with secondhand enthusiasm. Every time she speaks, you can almost hear background music trying and failing to keep up with her. Mel's tone isn't angry, it's disbelief. He compares her leadership to that friend who gets lost mid-story, but still insists they know where it's going, while everyone else politely nods, waiting for meaning that never comes. It's like hearing the same 3 lines repeated in different emotional tones, yet she somehow thinks she's nailed it. His sarcasm hits hard. He says politics used to at least pretend it had scripts, but now it's pure improv night at the Capitol. Kamala's speeches sound like deleted TikToks stitched together by an intern running on their last sip of coffee. And he's not wrong. Every sentence loops between poetry, puzzle, and panic. A performance that leaves you wondering if anyone's still following the plot.
A Glock.
I've become friends with school shooters.
When they asked her about the gun,
Yes.
and I got a Glock. What kind?
Yes.
And her answer was, and
Yeah.
And Those were invented by nervous white people around black people.
Tyrus, the man built like a tank with opinions sharp as knives, isn't holding back. Subtlety just isn't in his vocabulary. When he calls someone out, it's not a whisper. It's a full-blown slam of sarcasm and truth. He sees Kamala's brand of optimism and calls it what it is, the world's priciest stand-up routine without punchlines. Tyrus sits there like a man who's seen it all, shaking his head in disbelief, as if watching a slow-motion car crash you can't look away from. He says what everyone's thinking, that Kamala keeps talking about understanding the moment while somehow missing every single one in real time. And when Tyrus starts, he doesn't stop. He compares her press events to bad improv sketches where everyone's pretending to know what's going on, just waiting for someone to yell, "Scene," so they can finally leave. The worst part, he says, is the applause for nonsense. It's like cheering when someone announces that water is wet. Mel, watching from his thoughtful corner, takes it further. He says it all reminds him of Hollywood's bad studio politics, where executives spend millions trying to convince audiences that a flop is actually genius. That's Washington now, marketing over meaning. And the sad truth, Mel says, is that America's not buying tickets anymore.
Set social media on fire with his blistering assessment of Kamala Harris. He said she has an appalling track record, no policies to speak of, and she's got the IQ of a fence post. Is Mel Gibson too big to be cancelled? Does he even care? He produces his own stuff these days, doesn't he?
He also financially and emotionally supported Robert Downey Jr. when he was dealing with his addiction problems. And
he's absolutely right. Every time Kamala steps in front of a microphone, half the country braces for impact like they're about to watch a live stunt with no safety net. You never know what's coming, laughter, confusion, or both. And Mel Gibson, being Mel, doesn't sugarcoat a single thing. He paints the scene like a tragic comedy, where everyone keeps pretending the emperor's wearing Armani when he's clearly rocking pajamas. Tyrus, on the other hand, hits straight to the gut, calling it the Kamala paradox. She's everywhere and nowhere, all at once. Her name floods headlines, yet nobody can quite say what she's actually accomplished, aside from giving speeches that sound like rejected greeting cards. The irony stings, but it's funny because it's true. Kamala's speeches often sound like motivational fridge magnets rearranged by a toddler with glitter glue. Mel digs deeper, saying the real issue isn't Kamala herself. It's the script she's improvising from. Somewhere in the White House, there's probably a dusty teleprompter wondering what it did wrong. He calls it bureaucratic improv theater, the kind of performance where you don't need talent, just timing and a convincing smile.
There's worse things that you can say to people.
Yeah.
But I help people who harm people. God bless, good night, that's my time. That's what...
Tyrus doesn't hold back. He compares Kamala's political presence to that coworker who somehow keeps getting promoted every year for energy and potential, even though nobody can quite explain what she actually does. It's a brutal comparison, but the crowd can't deny it's true. Tyrus doubles down, saying if confidence alone counted as results, Kamala would be president of the galaxy by now. Their humor is relentless, but never cruel. It's sharp observational comedy that slices right through the nonsense. Kamala mastered the performance part, the gestures, the tone, the energy, but completely forgot the plot. It's like watching a musical where everyone's singing their hearts out, but no one remembers the lyrics. Tyrus finishes with his trademark smirk, saying Kamala's leadership might be revolutionary, not for its success, but because it's made millions of Americans suddenly nostalgic for silence.
First of all, she never saw the video.
Yeah.
Okay? That's not someone who describes a video.
Yeah.
That's someone that they handed this to her, and she was like, elephants? Oh, I'll take it from here. And then she went out there. And she was not drunk. She was hungover, because she's way worse when she's hungover. That was hungover because she kept saying the same thing over and over again. They surrounded, and then they formed a circle. And then they got together.
That's when Mel nearly spits out his drink laughing. But beneath the humor, there's a sharper truth hiding in plain sight. Both he and Tyrus are making it crystal clear, in their sarcastic yet honest way, that America's leadership has turned into a show. More about image than impact, more about promises than progress. The whole system feels like it's glitching between chaos and confusion. And somewhere along the way, everyone forgot what the real question even was. It's political hypnosis dressed up as inspiration, performance over purpose, noise over nuance. Mel Gibson, the same man who once gave the world Braveheart, looks genuinely baffled that the country once known for courage and conviction now cheers for scripted confusion. He shakes his head, muttering that at least his movies had editors. Tyrus ends with a sly grin, saying Hollywood might have gone soft, but Washington's become its parody. And right there, in the middle of the madness, Kamala plays both the hero and the comic relief, perfectly framed in the world's most absurd political stage.
Oh, we applaud people speaking their mind. There's certainly plenty of celebrities who are saying outrageous things about Donald Trump. So if Mel Gibson wants to share his thoughts, I think everyone can accept that, but probably not Hollywood.
Kamala might not be laughing, but the audience sure is, because sometimes the only way to survive the madness of modern politics is to treat it like a comedy. Mel and Tyrus aren't done roasting. They're just getting started. The whole thing feels like the world's longest reality show, except no one's winning and everyone's confused. Kamala Harris stands center stage, the headlining act of this grand illusion. She steps up to the mic with that confident smile, like she's about to announce a miracle, but what comes out sounds more like a riddle written by a poet who lost their thesaurus halfway through. Mel chuckles, shaking his head, saying it's the kind of speech where every word sounds important, yet the meaning evaporates faster than campaign promises after Election Day.
Acting like we haven't known her for the last 4 years or 3. It feels like 50. It really does. It really does. And you could make, now they're making the argument the reason why she was the way she was because she had to lay in the cut so Biden could do his thing, and she had to watch, and then one day she decided to go down to him and say, hey, it's my time, and he's like, you're right, and he stepped aside. She's this great, noble person, and you know what? Let's say this is all true. I'm willing to have a restart with Kamala, a complete restart. Maybe I've been wrong.
Tyrus, never one to waste a good punchline, jumps in with his signature smirk and calls Kamala's speaking style verbal jazz, smooth-sounding words that never quite hit a note. It's all rhythm, no melody, a performance you can't follow but somehow can't look away from. It's mesmerizing, the kind of slow-motion crash you can't stop watching. Mel laughs, saying it reminds him of Hollywood's obsession with endless remakes, the same old ideas recycled, repackaged, and sold again like they're brand new. Kamala's speeches, he says, feel exactly like that. Tyrus leans back, shaking his head, amused yet baffled. So much smile, so little substance. You scroll through her clips, and by the end, you still don't know what the message was. But you definitely remember the laugh.
And every day, in the courtroom, I stood proudly before a judge, and I said 5 words. Kamala Harris, for the people. I accept your nomination to be President of the United States of America.
At least some people have their head on straight, like Mel Gibson here. So he comes out and says this about Kamala Harris.
Mel doubles down, saying Kamala's political strategy feels like something dreamed up in a glossy marketing boardroom. Beautiful on the surface, but hollow inside. It's all about aesthetics, zero authenticity. It's like someone watched The West Wing once and decided, that's it, that's leadership. He calls it Instagram governance, filtered, polished, perfectly captioned, yet totally disconnected from the chaos it's supposed to represent. Then comes the real punch. Mel and Tyrus both agree that Kamala's speeches aren't about communication. They're about calibration, carefully tuned to sound inspiring while saying almost nothing. They joke that she could host her own late-night show called The Vice Hour, where every episode is her trying to explain policy through poetic riddles and interpretive metaphors. The tagline, "Stay tuned, because even we don't know where this is going." But Mel, ever the director, can't resist digging deeper once again.
We'll watch the next speech, and I'll go, Greg, I'm sorry I wasted your time on the show talking about it. So no matter how you dress that box up in ribbons and sprinkles, when you open it up, it's still full of incompetence.
He says what frustrates him most isn't Kamala herself. It's what she represents, a system that rewards charisma over clarity. We've traded real conviction for catchy slogans, and Kamala, he jokes, is the undefeated champion of polished confusion. Then, as if the roast wasn't already scorching, they start imagining her internal monologue during speeches. Mel acts it out. Okay, deep breath, use the hands, look passionate, say something that sounds wise but can't be fact-checked. Smile, pause, repeat. The crowd roars, but then Mel lands the real knockout. He says, America's leaders used to inspire action. Now they just inspire memes. Keep everyone guessing, he adds, so no one can call your bluff. If that's true, Kamala's playing 4D chess while everyone else is still setting up the board. Mel and Tyrus exchange that half-serious, half-sarcastic glance, the kind that says, this is hilarious, but also terrifying, because deep down, they both know they're not just roasting Kamala, they're roasting the entire system that made her inevitable.
TMZ caught up with actor and filmmaker Mel Gibson, who reaffirmed his support for former President Donald Trump, and he had some sick burns for Vice President Kamala Harris. The reporter asked Gibson who he was going to vote for. After Gibson said that Kamala had the IQ of a fence post, demands were made for an immediate retraction and apology by the...
Mel concludes that somewhere along the way, politics stopped being about leadership and started being about likability. And Kamala, flaws and all, has mastered that version of the game. She's not crafting policy. She's performing for the camera, basking in applause that echoes louder than her words. The crowd cheers, the cameras flash, and though her speeches rarely land, her vibe always does. Because in modern politics, vibe is everything. Tyrus shrugs with a grin, saying maybe that's the hidden lesson of Kamala Harris. She's not trying to make sense. She's trying to make headlines. The confusion is the message. The performance is the policy. Mel laughs one last time, shaking his head, saying, maybe she's the only one who truly gets it. In a world this upside down, clarity doesn't win. Attention does. Maybe Mel Gibson and Tyrus weren't roasting Kamala after all. Maybe they were holding up a mirror. And for once, America just couldn't look away.